And good afternoon, everybody. Jim Miller and the man who is back from vacation. I'll tell you, the sun did you a world of good, though, Cappy. You look like you had a good time there, and you're back in town now. You're in the midst of March Madness, but this is kind of racing madness too, Cap, because now the Derby preps are really heating up, my friend.
Yeah, I'm excited. Good to be back with you. We've got a full slate of 4 races this weekend, both domestically and internationally. And Bob Baffert is one of my picks, so I'm ready to go. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. And here's the thing that's amazing, because you mentioned Bob Baffert. We're still looking just over a month away from the Derby. As of right now, still none of his horses can get into the race for the Derby, but they can all create a whole lot of havoc when it comes to these prep races for earning points, for taking points away from others. Like we mentioned a couple weeks ago, though, there's still big purse money for all of these races, Cap. So when you're running for your owners and you think you have the best horse, you want to make a whole lot of money. If it means you got to miss the Kentucky Derby, hey, so be it. Some of them don't seem to mind if they're with a guy who's a Hall of Fame trainer in Bob Baffert, and I think that's the choice a lot of people are making.
Yeah, if you owned a horse again, and I'm talking about a horse, not a horse, and you could get anyone to train him, and all of a sudden there's yeah, who's there? Yeah, Todd Pletcher. Is Jim around? Yeah, it's Bob Baffert. Yeah, it's Mark Cassie. It's this guy. It's that guy. Who is the great Jim Miller going to choose to train his horse?
Probably Steve Asmussen right now. And here's the reason why I would say Steve Asmussen.
Right?
Huh?
He's got the big bushy gray hair.
Yes. All right. I watched Steve Asmussen at Oaklawn Park one day when I was out there. Training got done at 10 in the morning. You had misty weather, you had kind of crappy weather, that kind of stuff, but it was a stakes weekend coming up in a few days. For stakes races at Oaklawn Park, they saddle their horses in the infield there. And the infield can have a lot of people there. It's kind of hectic. It's kind of bunched up at times. Steve Asmussen himself took the stakes horses over, walked the horses over himself, not a groom walking it over, not an assistant trainer. He himself brought the horse over, went through the whole process, went through the whole schooling process with the horse, everything as if it were a race day. I thought that was something that was really cool to see. It didn't matter the weather. It didn't matter the time of day. Nothing. He was just, he was a great horseman, the way he handled everything. And I've seen him do this numerous times with horses. So he would be the guy for me. Now for you, you recently got into ownership, Cap, and you had it with a guy who's won a whole lot of training titles there in Larry Ravelli. Who would your guy be?
So I loved Larry. Great dude. Yeah. Went, hung out with him, had dinner downtown in Chicago, had a great time. My brother and our wives and Larry and his girlfriend. If I had a horse, I'm not talking about just a horse, I would probably go with either Todd Pletcher or something about that dude I like.
Great guy.
And Baffert intrigues me. So probably one of those two.
Baffert wins a lot of races. He wins a lot of races at a high percentage. He wins a lot of big money races. Nothing scares him off. And he knows how to prepare a horse. That's the one thing that you have seen time and again. Todd Pletcher is a tremendous trainer. Very good guy, too.
I will tell you that I know age might be a factor, but if he said I'm still up for it, I probably would give the nod. I just think he's probably headed toward retirement to D. Wayne Lucas, who's a friend of mine, Bob Knight, and a former college basketball coach.
Wayne Lucas is actually still training at Oaklawn Park right now. He's got a horse that may be on its way to the Oaks. So you will see what happens. D. Wayne Lucas is still around. He's a guy that definitely still knows what he's doing for sure. And he's out at the track each and every day too. All right, Cap, let's take a look at our prep that we had a couple of weeks ago. It was the Tampa Bay Derby. It's, Cap's cracking. Well, see, I'm drinking coffee in the middle of the afternoon.
LaCroix. It's not
oh, boy. Tampa Bay Derby was last week. All right, Cap, you hit this one. You were right on the nose here. Classic Causeway got a very similar trip that it got in the Sam F. Davis, made the top, cruised around, did it rather easily, though, and won going away. The horse that kind of made or break both of our bankrolls was Shipsational. No excuse for this horse not to run second. The horse should have run second, ended up running third. And their Grantham ran a huge race at a big price, Cap. But hey, you were right on Classic Causeway. You were right And this is a horse that could be a big factor in the Derby.
Yeah, this is a really good horse. It's got some points now. And if Shipsational runs second, there'd be a nice exacta there. But I was excited to cash a little ticket and move back up the leaderboard.
Yep, you did move back up the leaderboard. That was good. You had win place money on the horse. And like you said, you had an exacta play. I had Shipsational on top to win in place and then an exacta play as well. You were the only one that cashed last week. I did not. It's okay. It happens. We'll have a new week this week in Cap. We have count them, 3 Derby preps, and they're at different times of the day. You got the Dubai Racing Carnival, which is taking place in Maidan. Those races are early Saturday morning. Then Saturday afternoon, you got a massive card at the fairgrounds with the Louisiana Derby. And then on Sunday at Sunland Park, you have the Sunland Park Derby and 200-point races, UAE Derby, the Louisiana Derby, a 50-point race for the Sunland Park Derby. But the Sunland Park Derby produced Mind That Bird, one of the biggest upsets ever in the Kentucky Derby a few years back. And that's the reason a race like that gets points.
So I went back and watched that race as I was handicapping. That was with Calvin Bowrail, as we like to call him, Calvin Burrell up. That horse was so far back, and he never, ever moved. He stayed along the rail, and all of a sudden, it was like the seas parted. There's that big lane, boom, and there he goes.
And here's the thing about it. In the Derby with 20 horses, everybody, I think, kind of gets scared at times. They're worried, am I going to run into traffic? Is there too much traffic? And oftentimes they move off the rail too soon. And sometimes, yes, you can get bottled up on the rail and it doesn't work. But you're right. Calvin Burrell in that race, he had absolutely nothing to lose. Nobody thought anything about that horse. They gave the horse no shot at all. So there was no consideration if you're looking around to see who's coming. And people just slowly kept coming off the rail. And it was perfect timing. And he just shot right through there and rolled on to a great victory and an incredible story. But on Mind That Bird was one of the biggest upsets, too, in Derby history. Yep. All right, Cap. We're starting out 100-point race in Dubai. This is the UAE Derby. It's race number 5. Again, Saturday morning. You can bet these races, though, online. You can wager at Hawthorne Racecourse. You can wager online, wager.clubhawthorne.com. And, Cap, looking at this field here, and you see 12 there, and then you see 13, 14, and 15 there. There's 16 horses in here, Cap. One thing I want to make note of, which is kind of an interesting note on this race, you see it's for horses that are Northern Hemisphere or Southern Hemisphere horses. Northern Hemisphere born horses only have to carry 121 pounds. Southern Hemisphere horses have to carry 131, and it's because of what is treated as a horse's birthday. In the Northern Hemisphere, it's January 1st. Southern Hemisphere, it's August 1st. So you could have some of these Southern Hemisphere horses that are actually 4 months older than a Northern Hemisphere horse, which means just a little more maturity, could carry a little bit more weight, some along those lines. So that's the reason you're seeing in those parenthetics where these horses are from, because, Cap, it could make a difference in this race too.
No question. I'm going to be locked in on this race, the UAE Derby, a grade 2. It's the 5th race on the card, 9:10 estimated post time, Central Time. 9:10. So get up, coffee, and let's go.
Right. All right. Looking at this field, Cap, field of 16. These races are really hard to handicap too, only for the fact that past performance lines are a little bit different for the way they're done overseas to the way they're done here in North America. And here you get so many different points to call. Over there, you get basically where the horse was in the stretch, where the horse finished, and what the time was in a comment. So it makes it a little bit tougher to go off of. You look into breeding, you look into connections, stuff like that. What was the route that you went for the UAE Derby, and just looking at handicapping this race and kind of how you looked at it and making your selection?
So as I looked at this, first of all, I truly believe that Bob Baffert wants to stick it to everybody.
Yeah.
He wants to go out and, sorry, you lost your points, because he can't collect, as we've said many times, any points. It's a 140, 20, 10 system. He is favored. I think he's 3-1. Is that what I saw? Pinehurst, 3-1. There's some 2 other American horses have shipped in. There's a Russian horse that is shipped in. There's a Japanese horse. And Pinehurst is a horse that just narrowly beat Seikafu, a Japanese horse that is really, really highly regarded. But I think his 102 Equibase speed figure in the grade 2 San Vicente sold me.
Yeah.
Bob Baffert, that type of speed factor, I'm in.
Here's the thing about it too that's interesting. It's $1 million race. Bob Baffert's going there. Flavien Prat, the regular rider, is going there. He must like this horse. I still think in the back of Baffert's mind, Cap, they think they're gonna find a way, somehow, some way, to get a stay and allow these horses into the Kentucky Derby this year. I don't think it's necessarily going to happen, but I think that's what they're going to try to do. But Pinehurst is really good. And you're right, this is a horse that already went overseas in February and ran really well. And Pratt thought enough of it to go ride the horse in that race. Hey, he's going to hop on a plane and go again. But again, it's $1 million race. If you're going out there, you're going for the $600,000 top prize. I'd go for it too.
Yeah, the one thing that concerned me, and again, these horses haven't gone 1 mile and 3/16, but this will be the longest trek for Pinehurst.
Yep.
Never gone this type of distance. But when you add in that Flavien Prat is getting on a plane and going, I'm flying to Dubai, let's go.
Yeah.
He believes in this horse or he's not getting on.
And he definitely does believe in the horse. And I do think the horse has a big, big shot as well. For me, I'm going to go a little bit different route. Japanese horses have had a lot of success in Dubai in the past. The 6-horse Combustion is a horse that's very intriguing to me. Now, you look at these races, you've had good tracks, you've had muddy tracks. Last 2 races have been at 1 mile, but the last race was a victory. Here's the thing that I liked. William Buick is a world-renowned rider. He's a guy that rides all over the place. We see him at Breeders' Cup time, especially on the turf course there. He's picking up the call on this horse. This is a horse owned by Godolphin, who has won numerous Eclipse Awards for top owner, for top breeder. They know what they're doing. They know where they're placing their horses there. You're getting a little bit better price. You're getting 5-1 on this horse right now. It's going to be Combustion for me. Again, like what you said, Cap, with Pinehurst, it's very much the same. Distance is kind of the key. Distance really kind of changes how things are going to unfold here for this race and who can handle the distance. It's a really long run down the stretch. These races are so much fun to watch, though, Cap, too, because their camera work is incredible also.
Okay, let me ask you a question. There's a horse in this field, and if you could put the odds back up or check it for me, what are the latest odds on Get Back Goldie?
So looking at the field here, here's the field again. Get Back Goldie is 30-1. Okay. Doug O'Neill, Irad Ortiz Jr. Yeah, and this horse has had 2 races over this racetrack, Cap.
You're right. This horse won a conditional race at Maidan last month and then was 6 in an ungraded stakes at Maidan on March the 5th. So this horse has a lot of familiarity with that track and has had success on that track. I looked at it. I'm like, nah, and I ended up sticking with my guy Baffert. But I thought about taking a shot and rolling the dice with Get Back Goldie.
Get Back Goldie would be a good long shot play. I agree with you there. I think that is a horse that is very intriguing as well, Kev. I think that's a horse that could be a little bit of a factor too. All right, so after that race, like you mentioned, that's just after 9 a.m. in the morning, taking place on Saturday. After that, we're going down to Louisiana. Now, Louisiana, they got very lucky. They dodged some horrible storms. There were some tornadoes there earlier in the week. Fortunately, the racetrack dodged it. We send out our prayers to anybody that got affected by these storms there. But at the fairgrounds, it is a massive card, another 100-point race here, Cap, and it's the Louisiana Derby. Goes as race number 12. What I'm surprised, Cap, this is $1 million race. There's only 9 in here, and I think it's because of who the favorite is. The 6th Epicenter is a really good racehorse, but you thought you could beat Epicenter in here.
I did. Now, I will tell you, there's a horse in this race that at 28-1 beat Epicenter. And that was a horse, Call Me Midnight, back in January in the Lecomte.
Yep.
But as I went through all of my workout times, you go back and look at the workout times that I love to lean on. Rattle and Roll is putting up like 5 furlongs and 58 back to back. I'm telling you what, this 3-year-old is fired up. It's razor sharp. It's putting great times up. And I think the distance fits. Kenny McPeak is another really quality trainer. So I'm taking a shot on Rattle and Roll.
The only thing that scares me about Rattle and Roll, Cap, and it's not the workouts, because you're right. The workouts are very good. I think the added distance is good too. I think the added distance is something you need. The thing that scares me is the running style, and that's because Rattle and Roll kind of tends to close from the clouds here. You mentioned Call Me Midnight, Cap, and that was a very good call there, because back in the LeCompte on January 22nd, Epicenter ran second. Epicenter was pushed in that race every step of the way. In the horse battle, that was the reason I picked the horse back in the Risen Start, because you didn't have the same amount of pace. I guess I'm only curious in here, Cap, is looking up and down the field, where else could the pace come from? Maybe Pioneer of Medina, maybe Galt. You're going to need a little bit of pace for Rattle and Roll to run at here if that horse is going to get up, but you're definitely going to get the price.
I'm going to give you another one.
Yeah.
Zozos.
8-1.
Zozos is 2-0 both races.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you that this horse, check out his speed figures. This horse has some speed now.
Yeah. Improved 22 points. Improved 22 points off a maiden score. Went a mile and 16th. And you're right, that was the horse that scared me, Cap, because this horse in that second start out, it was an optional claimer, broke from the 9 hole in an 11 horse field, pushed the pace the whole way around, extended on the lead, won this race by 10 1/4 lengths. Florent Giroux has won some of the biggest races in the world. Brad Cox is a very good trainer. That's one at 8-1 that I thought could be a factor in here. For me, I'm staying chalky here, Cap. I think Epicenter is that good. Joel Rosario is going to ride this one for trainer Steve Asmussen. You mentioned the loss to Call Me Midnight, but like you said, for the works on your horse, the works on my horse were pretty good as well. March 7th and March 14th, both 59 and change workouts, both bullets at the fairgrounds. Epicenter's running style is a style that I love. Get to the front, push things along, let you dictate what everybody else has to do in the race. If he catches just the slightest bit of a breather, I think he could kick away and win right back. What it's going to do is make things really interesting if he does, because, Cap, we just saw a couple of weeks ago, Classic Causeway has a very similar running style. It could really throw the Derby for a loop if you have a couple of horses with very similar running styles, both in the race, because all of a sudden, this is a race that could become a race full of pace, but it's going to be Epicenter for me in that spot. But you're going to try to beat the favorite there, huh?
Yeah, you're going too chalky for me.
Thanks.
Too chalky for me on this one, and I got to try and pile up some points.
Yeah.
I also look back. So notable winners of this race, there's actually some history, sad history that was made this week. Like Hot Rod Charlie won it in 2021, Gun Runner in 16. Then you got all the way back to Freeze on Fire in 09,
Yep.
Grindstone in 1996, and Grindstone passed away this week.
There's your guy, Dwayne Lucas, too.
Yeah.
Grindstone was a really interesting Derby winner because he closed from the clouds. He closed in the center of the track. He was part of a coupled entry, too. And because of that, Grindstone would have been a massive price if he was uncoupled, because he was the longer price. It would have been the longer price of the two. It was an awesome Derby race. An incredible call by Dave Johnson. I love his race calls. He picked that horse up moving, picked the horse up flying late. And I'll tell you, it was a really good race. All right, we're shifting over to Sunday. Sunland Park, 50-point race. The Sunland Park Derby. Cap, for a Derby prep that is worth 50 points here, it's a field of 8. I'll tell you this. Competitive race for this, I don't think there's a single horse that can compete in the Kentucky Derby in this race. What do you think?
Look, there's a number of horses as I went through this. You know, you got big time horses. Slow Down Andy is the class of the field, I think. I don't know if you agree with me, but at 2-1, I want a little value for my play. So I am going with straight up G. Now, again, 2-1, 5-2, not a huge difference, but I'm thinking that my odds may get a little better because all that money's coming in on Slow Down Andy. I also almost went with Chrome King at 15-1. Chrome King is a good horse, has had great workouts, very sharp, but it's 15-1. And in the end, I went with Straight Up G.
Here's the thing about this race. All right, Straight Up G. I like the fact that you went this way because Straight Up G won the Mind That Bird Derby at Sunland on February 27th. A race over the track is very big. I went to another horse coming in out of that same exact race. You mentioned Slow Down Andy, and this could be the key for this for bettors because you want to watch with this race being on Sunday. If Epicenter runs another big race in the Louisiana Derby on Saturday, that's the race that Slow Down Andy comes out of. People may say, oh my gosh, this horse just comes out of such a better race there. The horse is so much better than everyone. And because of that, you're not going to get a whole lot of value. The thing I don't like about Slow Down Andy, you're coming in off a race and you're doing an equipment change. They're putting blinkers on for this spot. And that's one of the things that I really don't like going into a stakes race is making that equipment change. I'd rather see it earlier on in your career, not kind of testing everything going up. So I stayed away from that horse too. And I went to a different horse. I went to Classic Moment, a horse that comes out of the same race that your horse comes out of. I think this is a horse that could be a threat. And again, Joel Rosario, Steve Asmussen. Rosario's riding for Asmussen the day before in New Orleans. And then he's flying over here to New Mexico to ride this race. To me, that was good enough. What do you think?
Okay, what do I do for a living?
You talk sports, man.
Okay, guess who the owner of Straight Up G is?
Who?
Jim Rome.
Jungle Racing. No way.
Sportscaster, I'm in.
Jim Rome has done tremendously well too, Cap, with his horses. This isn't a guy that just kind of gets horses to mess around with. This is a guy that has had horses that are very good, that are top horses in the country. I like that. So there you go. Straight Up G for you, Capper. This is your horse. This is your lock in the Sunland Derby. I think this is a horse that could be tough, man. And I'll tell you, just for the same reasons I picked Epicenter in the Louisiana Derby, you get the speed here. That's one of the things that definitely helps you when you can get onto the front end and get a race over the track. So it is going to be Straight Up G for you.
There you
now,
go.
Cap, how we bet these races is a little bit interesting here because we went to different races. We stayed away from Sunland's race. I went early Saturday morning. You went later on Saturday. How you bet your $100, and you were the one that cashed last time. So I'm going to let you go first, Cap. Man, you got a lot of faith in a 6-1 shot here in the Louisiana Derby there in Rattle and Roll, huh?
Yeah, I'm going to take a shot with Rattle and Roll. 6-1. I think you may even end up seeing this at 7-1. Brian Hernandez is a solid jock. Kenny McPeak, I waxed eloquently about before, but I think he had a bad race at Gulfstream. Did not run well. I went back and watched it. He has got a distance, I think, that is better suited for him. So I'm going to take a shot. Rattle and Roll, baby. 50 win, 50 place.
And you know what? That was a really weird race in the Fountain of Youth, too. There was some traffic troubles. There was all sorts of issues there. Horse was coming in off a layoff. That was the first start of the year. I like that you're going out there and sticking your neck out and taking a shot because this horse has a million reasons to improve in the second start of the year. I think you could cash in that race. I'm hoping it's second behind Epicenter. Even if you run second, though, Cap, when it's 50 to win in place, you're going to make some money. For me, it's early on Saturday morning, the UAE Derby. I'm going with the Japan horse Combustion in here. I'm going to bet that one across the board. I'm using your horse, Cap. I'm using Pinehurst in this spot because Pinehurst is a very good horse. So I'm putting Pinehurst in first or second. Combustion needs to run first or second. Irwin is a horse that is interesting to me because Irwin is a horse that's Argentinian bred. So this is one of those Southern Hemisphere horses. Carries 131 pounds. But this is a horse that's gone longer than the distance in the past. 20-1 in the morning line. So if that horse can get into the mix, I do think Irwin can be a little bit of a factor late as well. Now, Cap, Spring Stakes Showdown has been going on. And the Spring Stakes Showdown is one of those things where everybody has kind of been, I guess, just kind of milling about. The leaderboard hasn't seen a whole lot of movement because there hasn't been a lot of huge prices. But things could change a little bit here. So here's your 3 races for the Spring Stakes Showdown. And as you see, we already talked about the UAE Derby. We already talked about the Sunland Derby. But, Cap, the other race we toss in there is the Santa Ana at Santa Anita. And it's an interesting race. because it's 1.25 miles and 1.25 miles on the turf. You don't see that all that often there, Cap. And you're going to a horse and going to Vegas in here that I think this horse could be a factor, and I think you're going to get a little bit of a price there too.
No. I on the Santa Ana.
Oh no, you're Queen Goddess. You're Queen Goddess. I'm going to Vegas. That's right.
I'm with
You're
Queen.
going to get a bigger price with Queen Goddess.
No question about it. Queen Goddess is a really good horse. Look, going to Vegas, I really think is a solid horse. I think it ran in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare on November the 6th.
Yep.
And I don't believe it ran very well.
No, ran bad.
Correct.
Ran bad. Yep.
So, but this is a horse that's got a ton of experience. 24 races in, but I just looked at my Queen Goddess, and Queen Goddess really intrigued me. Wire-to-wire winner at 14-1 in the Grade 1 American Oaks. That was on December 26th. It's out of Empire Maker, Victor Espinoza. I'll take Victor. I'll take the winner.
And you may have the winner, and you're going to get a price. I didn't mean to say that. I think you are going to get a good price in that race. I'm just kind of pulling up the Derby preps here to see what else is going to be popping up. But yes, you will get a price in that race on Queen Goddess, because you look up and down the field, it's pretty evenly matched. Quiet Secretary is a horse that could be a factor. Closing Marks could be a factor. Going to Vegas, I think, is a horse that I think will also provide maybe a little bit of value. But again, you don't know, because the Filly Mare Turf was a terrible race. All the other races have been pretty good. And like you mentioned, Cap, you're seeing 24 lifetime starts out of the horse. So that's a horse that I think could be a little bit of a factor in there as well. So we'll just kind of have to see how everything unfolds. But Cap, that's our 3 races for the Spring Stakes Showdown there. Now, next week, Cap, here's what we have on tap. Looking at next week, you get Florida Derby, Arkansas Derby, Jeff Ruby Stakes. And this year, the Jeff Ruby Stakes at Turfway is a 100-point race. This was a race that before used to be kind of one of those undercard races, so you don't maybe necessarily consider it a Derby prep. But Animal Kingdom came out of that race and won a Kentucky Derby. So it's good racing. This is the time of year where things get hectic. So, hey, we got March Madness going on. After this weekend, you're going to be talking Final Four. You're going to be talking the kickoff to the Major League Baseball season. But, man, it is still horse racing season too, my friend.
By the way, have you started throwing yet?
I have started throwing. I've been throwing to my kids. I'm getting ready for our season. I still got to face you at some point. We're going to have to cross paths at some point there.
Yes, I would like a shot at the title. Just kidding. I hit 473 last year. Now, I wasn't facing you.
You're going to be scrappy. I have a feeling you'd foul off a lot of pitches and really kind of aggravate me before I buzz the tower.
You would buzz the tower, and then you'd snap one off on the outside corner. Got him looking.
That would be the goal. But, hey, oftentimes what you find, a good fastball, anybody, if they know what they're doing, can catch up to a good fastball. You got to be able to mix something else in there as well.
Yep.
And you got to throw strikes.
I struggle with the hammer.
Well, that's good to know. Maybe I'll just toss 3 curves to you. And good morning, good afternoon, good night, and then we'll go from there. Now, Cap, as always, you're busy. ESPN 1000 each and every morning. Kap and J Hood on there. Speaking engagements, you're out there for watch parties for hoops and that. When do you ever sleep?
Sleep's overrated, man. When the good Lord calls my number, I'll get my sleep then.
Well, there you go. But Cap, good job as always. Thank you. Good luck to you with your selections this week. And again, we'll see if we can make money this week and then 3 more big preps next week, my friend.
Looking forward to it, man. Best to you and your family.
You got it. Same to you. Good luck to everybody this weekend, and we'll talk to you again next week.